Welcome to the Lazaro Lab. I'm Ryan Lazaro.
And I'm Matt Lazaro, and we have
Special guest. We know him as Dr. Bob. Not to be confused with Bob the Builder, but he can fix you.
Yeah.
Welcome, Dr. Robert Shapiro.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure to be on here.
Yay! Hey, man. So it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you were on my podcast a couple years ago.
Okay.
Right? You remember doing
probably,
that?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Nah, so we've known Dr. Bob for a really long time. I think I first met you, it has been like 15 years ago or so.
You were, what, 18?
No, I'm pretty sure I was older than that.
Yeah?
Why,
At least
were you
legal.
trying to... Whoa. He wanted to make sure I was legal.
Had to check the credentials.
Yeah. Now, this is off to a great start. So I wanted to make sure to bring you on. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen you anyways. And, I really, really like what you do in your practice and, in what you do. So give us a little breakdown so the listeners could know what you actually do and you specialize, and just give me the rundown.
Okay. Kind of my curriculum vitae.
Yeah, exactly.
30-second. Okay. Well, so...
It doesn't have to be 30 seconds. It could be like 30 minutes.
All right. Well, I'll kind of give you my elevator spiel that I give people that they want to know what I do, but they also kind of want to know what led me to do this.
Yep.
So, interestingly, so I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I'm a board certified doctor of chiropractic. I got my degree at Logan University in Chesterfield, Missouri, which is in the outskirts of St. Louis. I actually got my undergraduate degree in human biology there as well. I did my undergraduate work at the junior college there because I was a poor boy. I didn't have a family with a trust fund or anything, so I had to pay for it all on my own, and that's fine. But originally, I had actually started out with the intention of going into nuclear science. Mm-hmm. I was going to be a nuclear physicist, and as I started my physics classes, I found myself being incredibly bored in the lab classes and with all the mathematics. And I did really good in math and science in high school. Mm-hmm. But then once I hit calculus, I just found myself, I completely derailed off of math. I was just done with it. I burnt out.
That gets real boring.
Right?
Ryan, you never did calculus. Shut up.
No. After sophomore year, that was it.
After geometry, is like, it's all downhill.
Yeah, they used to tease the teacher, like throw papers at him, and he got so frustrated that he left. And ended up quitting.
You're right.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
He was like, oh, he was ready to kick some kid's ass, but it's better he left.
Anyways.
So anyways, I got my degree in chiropractic, and then I made the very intelligent choice to leave my hometown and move halfway across the U.S. to Stockton, California.
209.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so completely uprooted myself, came out here, didn't know anybody except my family, eventually kind of built a tribe, met you guys, of course, pretty early on, actually.
Yeah.
You're some of the oldest in that tribe.
We were broing out at 24-hour fitness.
That's right. That was back when I was actually in shape.
You're still a shape.
Just not the right shape.
I'm just teasing.
So, and I came here to start my practice, and, like many people with, big intentions and lofty goals, I had, a vision for that clinic, and it was going to be multidisciplinary. I was going to incorporate medical personnel. I was going to have, maybe nurse practitioners, physical therapists, acupuncturists, and found out the hard way that the laws are not very much in our favor here to build that kind of business. Had some colleagues who had kind of done that, and unfortunately ran into a lot of legal problems with those types of practices, and so realized, okay, I don't want to go that direction. Tried to go into sports, got my my CCSP, which is Certified Chiropractic Sports Physician, in 2012. Headed, kind of targeted the CrossFitters and the mixed martial artists. But I found out that there's a lot of people in the sports world who don't have money. Or they choose to spend their money on things, and healthcare is not a big one of them. So kind of, had to take a step back, reassess the business, and decided, oh yeah, there we
It's
go.
the 1:30 train.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Right on time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Drown me out. this is how my podcasts go right here.
Yeah, this is pretty normal. They hear it. I think the
Yeah.
listeners are used to this. At least
okay.
one train go by.
So anyway, I shifted my practice, and my chiropractor that kind of was my mentor in St. Louis, he had taken his practice and focused more on an area, a specialization called med legal work, which has to do with like traumatic accidents and things of that nature. And so I moved in that direction back in 2019. I met somebody, mentored with them, and have been mentoring ever since, and realized that there's a huge need for it, and for that particular segment of what I do. And thankfully it also pays really well, but and that's not the only reason I did it. I mean, of course the money is always a factor in a business, but at the same time you want to make sure that you're doing something that is really helping people, so that you're still earning that money.
Yep.
And believe me, I do. So
Absolutely.
and then also just before I got into that, you guys remember I got into the functional medicine,
Yep.
which is like the
Yeah.
clinical nutrition stuff, right?
Are you still doing that very much?
I still do it, but the thing that I discovered with it is, one, this market is a little funny for it, and so I've focused more on marketing online and spreading out my net.
Funny as in people don't appreciate it.
Yeah, they don't appreciate it as much.
Yeah.
They don't understand that a lot of times you have to pay out of pocket for the testing,
Yeah.
because it's not medically necessary.
Nah. Elaborate a little more on the functional medicine stuff. I could share my personal experience with it, because that really was kind of my coming to Jesus moment, to in a sense of how much influence you can have just on making these minor changes in lifestyle and food and things like that. I mean, I remember I was dealing with a ton of gut issues, skin issues, and stuff like that, and then eventually it came down to, I think you were the first person to suggest you might want to consider removing certain foods out of your diet, right? And I'm like, well, why? That's stupid, and we covered some of this on a previous episode, but I remember it was like constantly, some type of irritable bowel issue followed by skin issues, specifically like the hives and stuff like that. And then eventually, simply by starting by, like a process of an elimination type of diet, it helps significantly. That was my experience, and it changed things dramatically overall. And that was life changing for me, because it's miserable when you're not able to think outside the normal scope of just like, hey, this actually is maybe the root of one of the problems, along with treating some of the other stress issues and stuff that I had going on.
Rather than here's this corticosteroid, put this on, take your Benadryl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Masking the issue.
Yeah. Which, I mean, in medicine, in standard medicine, they have their standard of care, and even back then I didn't fully understand that, and I understand that so much more today than I did at that point. And I was frustrated, just like you were and many people are, in traditional healthcare, in the sense that from a chiropractic standpoint, we're not necessarily trained to address a lot of metabolic issues or skin issues or diseases or whatnot, right? Respiratory problems, etc., allergies. So then, of course, I had to go and do additional training post-grad. That's the functional medicine, which is basically, it's kind of a synergy of holistic medicine, almost like Eastern philosophy medicine, combined with a Western approach, but more cutting edge and on the fringe versus like just the standard stuff. And you still employ the standard things, like, for instance, lab blood tests, CBC or a comprehensive metabolic. But rather than allowing yourself to be locked into the classical system where you're looking at the range and you're either in it or you're outside of it, which we know now, we've discussed this, that those numbers don't apply to like, you can't take humans and put them into a bell curve and everybody fits into it, right?
Yeah, there's a big wide range of variation, even per person or per from an individual standpoint, right?
Yeah, right. Epigenetics.
Yep.
and,
just certain phenotypes
heritage.
and whatnot, and
Yeah.
it's very fascinating. I think one of the things I covered was like if 75% of the population is kind of on a sliding scale, you have, on each end, you're going to have roughly a smaller percentage of, somebody that's above average significantly, or elite athletes and so on and so forth. And then the outliers on the other end of the spectrum with the genetic disorders and these rarities and stuff like that. And that seems where, the people in the middle get screwed the most because well, because it's like it's undetectable generally by normal practices and stuff. And
Yeah.
I remember you helped me with looking through my labs and everything and really figuring out I had some weird sugar level things going on for a minute there. And
Yeah, I think you had like some reactive hypoglycemia.
Yeah, I
because your
did.
adrenals were kind of they
they were
weren't
acting funny.
Yeah, they were acting funny. Like they weren't completely crashed, but they definitely were dysregulating.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, a lot of that was I would say it was a byproduct of overreaching constantly and exercise and just general stressors and stuff like that too. But once those started getting regulated, it made a big difference.
Well, you had multiple factors, as many people do. Like,
Oh, yeah.
You just pointed out the overreaching with the training, which is
That's generally trying to compete with me.
yeah,
And, well,
exactly.
Which is
all
why
know
I
who
win.
had
That
the,
topic came up a lot,
yeah.
and that was a stressor in and of itself, like psychological.
Let's pull up what we squatted this week, huh?
Hey, I have a rib problem. Okay?
We're gonna have Shapiro pop it back.
So yeah, you've got the various physical stressors like training and just your base activity, right? Like lifting stuff around, putting your stock away, whatnot, mowing the lawn, taking care of the house, etc. Right? You've got sorry about that. You've got rip it all out. You've got the one that a lot of people are aware of, but they don't, for some reason, they don't put much weight on it, which is the emotional, or now with my wife being an energy practitioner, I like to refer to it as like the psychic component, right? It's that it's the emotional, the mental stress, right? The things you're thinking, but it's also what you're feeling from the environment. Like as an example, right now with this whole COVID thing, right? The polarity of people, like the vaxxers versus the unvaxxers, and the Bidens versus the Trumps and all that silly stuff that's always going on, right? I mean, I've never seen a time where people are more polarized in my life.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And we fail to acknowledge and understand how that affects us at a physical level, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a stressor, and many times people aren't addressing it because they're
just
not
your
acknowledging.
demeanor toward other people.
Oh yeah. Well, and then
Significant.
what you consume, right, from a media standpoint, I would argue is a heavy influencer of where your mindset is going to go in terms of your stress response. You know, whether you're triggered or whether you're looking for bad news, which is generally what most people do.
Yeah.
They're based fear driven in that context, and this is where I generally try to encourage people not to consume media. Stay off social media, even though we're on there and we're encouraging people to listen to us.
Follow us.
Yeah, exactly. Follow, subscribe. If you don't, you're a loser. No.
Yeah, well, I mean that's something that you get into a lot in your business. Is you definitely delve very heavily into the psychology aspect of obviously like weight loss and weight gain, but then sports performance and just life happiness, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's the reason why you're doing that is you obviously picked up on the fact that there's a huge need for it. Like these people are just running around and they're doing this Pavlovian, just looking at the media and hitting the like button or the dislike button, and it's like you got to break that cycle. Otherwise, your stress hormones are going to stay chronically elevated, right? Your insulin is going to be shot, and you can do all the burpees and muscle ups you want, but you're not going to lose weight, or you're going to keep gaining weight, right?
Oh yeah.
Or you're going to lose, functional muscle because of this hormonal kind of like,
hormonal shit show.
Yeah, hormonal shit show.
Let's call it what it is.
There
right?
you go, right? Yeah, and then there's the biochemical component. It's
Yep.
what people are putting into their bodies, right? And you guys delve into that from a macro standpoint way more than I do. Like I get into it a bit, but macros are it's very hard to manage that with people. I found that to be very difficult. And so that's why I like to defer it out to people who know what they're doing with that. And that like to do it.
Well, that's why I refer out when it comes to something that seems like it's out of my scope.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a bit wonky. I'm not qualified to address this, and that's when I start sending people your way.
Yeah, and that's really what's happened. Is I've realized like what I do in the world of functional medicine is it's very specialized. Like people can come in. The ones who respond the best are the ones who are completely just a mess.
Oh yeah.
Because all you got to do it's like a plant that hasn't been watered, given no sun and no love, right?
Yep.
You just give it a little bit of love and some water and some sunlight, and that plant all of a sudden starts looking way better.
Oh yeah.
The person that's just a little bit off kilter, they tend to be trickier because you have to run more tests. And because you have to look at those tests,
Really pinpoint.
yeah, and a lot of times it'll be multiple things. Like in your case, the food sensitivity, and then the stress, but not so much stress that you were overwhelmed by it. And then what else? I think you had like a subclinical infection, like a little bit of a bacterial overgrowth in your gut. And we had to address that, right? We had to do what we call in functional medicine, we call it a weed and feed protocol.
Yep.
Meaning that you weed out the bad weeds, the bad bacteria, the bad critters, and you feed in the wanted ones, because a lot of people don't even realize like your gut is colonized by trillions of bacteria.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the microbiome, the gut microbiome stuff is really fascinating, and it's all the new literature over the last 5 years has even been more fascinating, even down to the usage of what probiotics actually do compared to what we thought they did, right?
Yeah.
Like they're immune modulators more than anything, which is fascinating. And I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense. But I've always noticed a tremendous difference. Like, yeah, calories are calories to a degree, but then when you are as an individual responding negatively to certain types of foods, even within your normal calorie range of maintenance or even a deficit, there's something amiss in there, right? There's possible issues with just systemic inflammation being from consumption of whatever it is, whether it's you're just poorly responding to some of the phytates in certain plants, or maybe you have a gluten issue that you just are not accepting that is real. Ryan,
Took me a while.
yeah, it did.
Well, and I mean, and I know that you get into this topic a lot, talking about detoxing, right? And I know the reason why you hate it is because people think that detoxing is this thing that you do from the outside, and really it's something that we have innately within us, right?
Yeah.
The mechanism's already there. You just have to provide it with the right substrates to function correctly, right? And remove the burdens.
Yeah. People need to detox their brain.
Yeah. Well, it's not that detoxing is not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it technically is and can be done when you know what you're looking for, right? And so
Just because you're shitting all day doesn't mean you're detoxing.
It's true. But okay, so
Put that cookie down.
yeah, exactly.
Now!
So you've had I've sent clients over to you where you found that they had heavy metal issues, right? You only know
The
what
music?
you know. But
Not this.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were not very good until they practiced. Right? So I remember a few of them. You ended up figuring out like some of these other underlying issues, and you started doing some labs, and then eventually put them on some unique protocols. But you knew what you were specifically addressing.
Yes.
Which is
huge.
What you explained earlier. You're specifically addressing a mechanism to functionally make the body get rid of what it needs in that excess that's been measured.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there you go.
Right?
Keyword,
yes.
measured. Right? That's most people, they go out and I call it like the pin the tail on the donkey while you're in a dark room and somebody spins you around with a blindfold on, right? They're literally throwing a dart trying to pin the tail on the donkey. They have no idea where it is. They don't even have a clue. but they're taking supplements. I'm going to take a little bit of this supplement. And a lot of supplements, like there's a practitioner that I was introduced to down in the LA area. He's a medical holistic practitioner, and he had a great terminology he used to classify his supplements in. He called them category 1s, category 2s, and category 3s. Now, category 1 supplement is a product that you can, or nutraceutical, if you will, is a product you can put somebody on and they feel a drastic difference within about a week or two. Like they feel a complete change in their physiology and function, right?
Yeah.
A category 2 is something that they may or may not feel, but then as we continue to test and measure their lab work, we start to see positive changes in the right direction. Like vitamin D may be one of those.
Yeah.
Some people feel way better when they bump their vitamin D up. Some don't feel a thing. But then over
the lab
time,
work proves it.
Yeah, the lab proves it. And then you start asking them key questions like, how many respiratory infections have you had in the last, 3 months? Oh, come to think about it, I haven't had a cold. Yeah, go figure.
Speaking of that, the interesting thing is after you helped me through a lot of those health issues, the frequency of me getting sick is extremely low, right? Extremely low compared to I used to regularly get like quarterly upper respiratory infections.
Yeah, you did.
Right, you need to come work for me.
Yeah, I had to. I was like legit sick. But then, maybe once every couple of years, and I don't have allergies anymore either.
Yeah.
That was like the thing that was really freaking miserable.
Allergies wreck most people. Like most people don't understand, and they always think respiratory allergies, right? Like for years, I had severe respiratory allergies, and I was told I inherited it from my parents, right? And to a degree, that's probably true, right? Genetic profile, whatever. But eventually, like when I got into judo and I was doing the mixed martial arts stuff, right? The people that were sparring with me, they were always like smothering me. They were always putting their hand over my mouth, right? And it really upset me. And I was like, why do you keep doing it? And they said, because you're a mouth breather. And I'm like, what's a mouth breather? And come to find out, my sinuses were always inflamed, right? So, and I just assumed it's these allergies, and there's nothing I can do except take the stupid, whatever the meds at the time were, Allegra or Claritin, right? So I went to my chiropractor and I was like, what do I do about it? And he says, you need to get off the milk. And he had some nutrition knowledge, but later on I didn't realize he didn't have a lot. But milk is such a common culprit, and he ended up being right. Like, got off the milk for 2 weeks, 85% of my symptoms cleared up.
Nice.
Yeah. And I had a lot of gut issues. Like I had severe constipation for years. I was taking like that Metamucil stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
You know how bad that is for you?
Stuff's gross.
It's like sawdust in your gut. Like it's like sandpaper. It's terrible for you.
I'm gonna go throw it away.
I mean, it can be beneficial for some things, but it's definitely not something you want to stay on indefinitely.
Psyllium is definitely not a what I would call a staple.
Take it every day.
Well, it's like when again in functional medicine, we would talk about like different diets all over the world, right? Like, and I prefer to use like food plans or there's another term for it. It's just
I know what you mean,
right? Just a dietary staple, not diet. And and you look at certain areas like up in Alaska. Okay, there's not a lot of plant life.
No.
And they largely eat meat.
Yeah, like 95% of their diet or more.
Right.
Yeah, the Inuit, right?
They have normal. Yeah. They have normal bowel movements.
Yeah.
All right. So what's this whole? You had to have fiber to have normal bowel movements.
No. Yeah,
right?
that's definitely not true.
What do you mean by normal?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, a normal bowel movement is like, ideally it's a bowel movement after every meal. You eat a normal meal, you have a bowel movement. That's the normal shift of food through the body. Now, going like 5-6 times a day, not normal.
Yeah, I was gonna say too frequent is definitely bad.
Right. Yeah, or like urgency, like always having like urgency to go. That could be just as bad as the person that's only going like once every 3 days.
Yeah. Oh shoot, man! I've had clients who are going once a week. That's crazy.
Yeah, with patient, I had a patient one time. She came into me. She was going like at best once a week, and ultimately, what we ended up finding out with that person, while she had like some hypothyroid issues, and I thought that's what the problem was. She had a major infestation of roundworms in her gut.
Whoa!
She was plugged up. Yeah. We didn't expect that, and I didn't find that out. Until I sent her to a colon hydrotherapist. They flushed her out. Nothing came out the first time. The second time, she calls me up and says, "You are not going to believe what came out of her." I found a worm came out of her 13 inches long. And I was like, it's roundworms. I was all excited. I was like, yes, it's roundworms.
Making us cringe. Oh, God,
So I sent her. I did what my license says I have to do in the state of California. I sent her to the medical doctor. The medical doctor blew her off. You don't have them. They refused to treat it. So she came back to me, of course, upset. We put her on a protocol of, natural supplemental antiparasitics, right? I think it was like wormwood and black walnut, a couple of other things. And over the next several weeks, man, she was just dumping these things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does one get that?
What we think happened is, so she now lives in England.
Yeah.
She got married, and she married the man. Not meaning it that way. That's a good place. No. My point is that her fiance, he lived out in the country in England, right? He lived kind of on farmland. And so animals carry parasites, right? And they drop their stuff in the dirt. And she probably, people walk
walking around barefoot,
and then boom, they probably got in that way. That was my guess.
Yeah.
So probably
scary stuff.
Yeah, it's not. It's funny that they say parasitic infections are
rare,
are extremely rare. I'm like, well, I don't like. It depends what you mean by rare. It's just the. I think what I've talked to you about is just the way that they go from a diagnosing standpoint. Is that's the thing that differs. There's like these standards that they use generally.
I guess you could almost kind of say like we're still using 19th century standards to diagnose things in the 21st century.
Well, that's the biggest issue, especially that women are running into with their thyroid. Like when they have their their regular practitioner giving them, putting them on thyroid medication since they're 16, and they're using the same diagnostics of standards from the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they're all screwed up.
Yeah. It's like, they're coming into you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not losing weight.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the stuff you told me to do. So.
Yeah. But fortunately, a lot of those times, it's just knowing that helps me equip them differently from a dietary standpoint.
Yeah.
And then, this is why the vast majority of women that came to me that said that they have a thyroid issue, it really was such a minimal impact on their actual progress. That's very, very rare. Is it actually slowing things down? Yeah, to that extent at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. If you want to take a quick break.
Oh yeah, we're gonna take you guys won't even
notice. You guys won't even.
Yeah, because we have to make. Well, you know what? Let's just let it run.
You want to let it run?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm still recording audio, so.
Yeah, let's let it run
and fine.
See if it. The camera. We had to make it change the settings to make sure it didn't turn off at 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll just keep an eye on it for now. But overall, there from a hormone standpoint, I mean, having optimal hormones, right, definitely helps, and that's why a lot of times I would try to, refer out to you because it gets them in a better hormone profile when you treat them, and then it makes my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like magnitudes easier.
Yeah. And that should always be the goal. It's like, it's not to take control of it. Like I told you, I mean, what you do with the macros and the lifestyle stuff, I mean, it's just, you have the systems in place for it. You have the patience for it. You've got the personality for it. I don't, number one, I don't have the patience for it. Like, I mean.
What?
I know, it's hard to believe. I'm the mild-mannered reporter. No, but I mean, I just, I guess the reason why I don't have the patience for it is because being a chiropractic doctor in California, there are only, you have to run a business. So you have to look at the things that are profitable and also the things that you're specialized to do.
Yeah.
That you only have so much time in the clinic to deliver those things. So
California is not really friendly to business in general.
Not in general. No, it's not the worst, but it's also not. I mean, I'm finding, unfortunately, it's not the best, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you can do what some people do, pick up and leave and go somewhere else, but the laws could always change.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. Or you can work. You can. Hey, how do we do we rearrange things and
Yeah.
adapt to this environment?
Yeah.
So
I mean, thankfully we have the support and the family and the friends in this area. So
Good
just
accountants.
yeah.
yeah, that's
But just
key.
to get up and go somewhere and start.
One second, guys. There we go. And we're back. So let's talk a little bit about how long you've been in practice.
Oh wow, you're gonna make me date myself here.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, well, let's put it this way. So I started practice when I was 25 or 26. So that was back in 2001. It's 2021. You guys can do the math. Roughly 20 years, right?
Well, Ryan has a hard time.
Take all your fingers
And go like this.
I need my toes.
Take off your shoes now.
Remember about that math teacher. So
Hey, the teacher wasn't doing their job. Should have punched some students and started
still
teaching.
passed. I still graduated. It's okay.
Ryan's a successful entrepreneur, even with no math skills.
That's what a calculator's for.
And accountants and calculators and bookkeepers. That's what they're all for.
Ryan knew
you know?
that the iPhone was coming along.
Oh yeah.
Like this
This is all I need.
calculator.
It's all in one computer.
It's all in
No
there.
joke. Well, you know, being in business as long as you've been, because that's what it is. You know, when you run a practice, you're running a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what kind of advice would you give to people that are looking to start a business?
What I would advise them of, okay,
Don't start, right?
no,
sorry,
you
go
know, you definitely want to look at. So there was a book I read, and it talked, and they used these two terms, and one term was called red ocean business, and the other was blue ocean
Yep.
business. I'm sure you
I
know
remember
what I'm
that
referring
book.
to. And red ocean is where there's a lot of competition. So chiropractic is a red ocean business. A lot of competition out there just for base chiropractic. So the way I made it more towards there's not as much competition as I specialized.
Yeah.
And so that made a huge difference. Now, a blue ocean business would be something like what Amazon started out as, right? Or Microsoft. Like there was no other business that did what they did
Yeah.
the way they did it, right? So if you can find a new idea that people need
Yeah.
and roll that out, yeah, it'll the difficulty you're going to have, of course, is that you got to convince people, hey, you need that.
Yeah.
But if it's something that people can envision, if you can explain it to them and they can go, oh my God, this is going to make my life easier, right?
Yep.
You'll have no problem.
Oh yeah, they're all for it.
Right?
Yep.
You don't need a degree. I mean, some people do because they feel like they need that education to prove, hey, this is my worth. I have this knowledge.
Yeah.
But not everybody does, and especially in this environment where the cost of college is like ridiculously expensive, and you can't get your loans like eliminated through bankruptcy or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like
Absurd.
my colleagues are coming out of school $300,000-400,000 in debt.
Man.
Yeah.
How do you get out from under that? It's ridiculous.
Oh,
You know?
Yeah.
So
That's
I didn't
wild.
come out with that debt, thank God, but it's something you have to consider. You have to look at. Are you truly passionate about it? Like that's a huge key thing for longevity,
Yeah.
right?
Do you really want to do it
Yeah.
because you love it, or are you just trying to do it to make money? Yeah.
right? Yeah. 'Cause-
Well, you know,
Both. You need both.
yeah.
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 I don't know. I don't think you need to love it.
No.
You know.
No, you don't need to love
Have
it.
some type of passion for it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about longevity. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
You don't have to love it. You can make a bunch of money and then one day realize like, okay, I'm done and I'm moving on to something else, right?
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with that, but
that's entrepreneurship right
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
You know, I mean, some people just don't want to work for somebody though.
yeah.
Like you own your job basically,
Yeah.
which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, nothing
No.
at all. I mean, we all have been there.
Oh yeah. In one form or another, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of longevity and everything, why do you feel like you're still around doing this?
I'm
'Cause, a lot of people quit.
yeah.
The majority.
Oh, and trust me, I've almost multiple times. Like
Yeah.
I've gone through multiple burnouts. I've felt like a complete and utter failure. I mean, back in 2014, I hit a low in my career and life, and to revamp myself. I mean, I literally went that's when I went down to Peru and hiked to Machu Picchu.
Ah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And then after that,
Drank that coffee that wrecked you.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
That actually ended up being pizza. It was food poisoning.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
I thought it was coffee, but yeah, that was a whole other experience, right?
You leaned out real fast.
There's a detox diet. Get sick. Wrap yourself to death. So
exactly.
And then my wife and I went down to Costa Rica and did some like spiritual work, and and then that's when I started figuring out like who I really was, and what my life purpose is, and how to think outside the box. Because I was so cerebral, and just way too left-brained.
Yeah.
That I just couldn't be creative and go and be happy and say like how can I find the positive of this, right? I just saw the negative. And that's kind of what, led me to make the changes in the practice and figure out, now because it really boiled down to honestly, like I was working a lot. I wasn't making the money that I felt that I was worth.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the lifestyle that I had intended to build.
Yeah.
And provide for my wife and for myself. And so I knew I needed to make those changes, and I did have to kind of trial and error. But eventually I kind of found that formula and was like, okay, cool. Now all of a sudden, instead of things feeling like I was constantly swimming against a stream, now I felt like the current was like literally carrying me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You said something when you were, where'd you go second? Not
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. You said something about finding a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's that? There's an old saying about a man with no purpose is, I don't know. I would say useless. Like
a man with no purpose is I don't know, probably like dead inside or something.
Yeah. But I mean that's huge. I would argue.
Kind of like find your why.
Yeah. But so I like the word purpose because it's like it's so much deeper.
Yeah.
Level, and then when you address your customer base or your patients and stuff, now you have purpose. They feel it. They know it.
Yeah.
They trust you.
And it can't be just about them. It has to be about you too. Like,
absolutely.
If you just give and give and you don't receive, you just feel empty inside. You feel used. You resent it, and that was part of it too. I just felt I resented it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, and as a matter of fact, just this year we went and did our first ayahuasca journey.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that really blew out. I mean, it blew out so many issues I've had with myself and with the world. I've had, anger and resentment for years. Couldn't quite pinpoint like what it was about.
Yeah.
And it really helped me to pinpoint what it was and like just, get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. I've had a few other friends that had some ayahuasca trips that it was life changing.
Mm-hmm.
Like quick.
Yes.
Now, what is ayahuasca?
It's psychedelic. It grows in the Amazon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They do grow it in Hawaii. The stuff that we did, they grew. It came in from Hawaii, but we did it here in California. It's still kind of
California.
California. So
Baja Cali. Allegedly California,
right?
Don't they combine it with
chacruna?
Yeah, it's like an MAO inhibitor or something like that.
I think
I heard
both are. The chacruna has DMT in it.
Yeah. That's what's being released into the.
Yes.
When you're drinking it, right?
Oh yeah. Well, you're getting there's a chemical that's in the ayahuasca, and it's what do they call it, like a phenolphthalein or phenanylaline, phenyltryptamine analog, and then in the chacruna is the DMT analog, which DMT is. Did you ever see the London Real episode with the old bodybuilder?
Oh,
British
yes.
Dorian Yates.
I did actually. Yeah,
he talked about
he's
that.
big on that.
Yeah,
he's very, very, very big in his. It's interesting to listen to his new perspective on life and stuff like that. But I mean, do you feel like it completely changes in the way that you interact with people in general?
I think to a degree. I mean, it depends on,
or at least your intention when you have, what I mean?
Yeah. It allowed me to let go of, like, I always visualized people, especially here in California, as kind of like hostile and always against me.
Yeah.
And now I don't see it so much that way anymore. Like,
it's only San Francisco. No.
Just San Francisco and the coastal cities. Like, they just hate you, No.
Sorry if you're a listener.
Sorry, guys. No, you know what?
Bay.
I have relatives and friends out there. Love you guys. I mean, anyway. No, it's just, but you do feel like coming from Missouri, where I'm from, yeah, they're conservative, but it's a more open, like kind of a friendlier, family-ish type of interaction. Here, people are just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And
It's a whole different pace.
It's a whole different pace.
Yeah.
I mean,
Every
probably
time.
not.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, every time I go to a different state, it's weird.
Yes.
I'm like, huh,
Yeah.
this is interesting.
Yeah, right? Well, try that when you go to a different country.
Yeah.
Go to a different country, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
like,
different.
why are we living this way?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so no, it does change the way you view your interactions.
Nice.
It totally changed the way you view yourself, and you get over all of that negative self-talk, like that people are looking at me or they're thinking this about me.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know what? Even if they are, who gives a shit? Because they don't pay my bills. They
Yeah.
don't. They don't control me.
Yeah.
And it's like, get over yourself, dude. Because my ego was so big. I was thinking like I was this hugely important, like I affected so many things, and in a way I do, but in a lot of ways I don't. I'm just,
No, that's all of us,
That
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
I feel like there's so much rooted in self-perception that people, when they're dealing with things that they don't like about themselves anyways, right? Like even particularly with what I do in regards to weight loss. I mean, it's just this general perception of who they think they are compared to who they actually are, right? Like there's this weird thing going on, and I don't know. What do you think in your experiences? How do people become shaped in that way that they're like almost self-hatred and disappointment and all of that? Where do you think that comes from? I know we're getting into something different.
Well, Silicon Valley is going to hate my guts, but I'm going to say social media plays a huge role in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
I mean, I realize it's just a tool. I mean, I acknowledge that it's just a tool, and you can use it for good or evil, right?
Yeah.
I think unfortunately they figured out that it's highly addictive. They've got study after
Manipulated
study.
it.
Well,
Right.
you saw that documentary, right, on Netflix. It's
Is it the guy who used to work for?
Well, there's a bunch of them that used to work for like Facebook and Twitter and
Google
stuff like
and
that.
Twitter,
Google,
yeah.
how they knew, how they
It's
were
like those
manipulating.
documentaries with the criminals after the drug deals and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these are developers that left because they felt terrible for what they did and what they created.
Yes.
What the heck is it called?
I mean, are they still collecting checks from the documentaries that they're pulling out?
I don't know.
Changing.
It was a really good. It was a really. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But
There's one of the guys who spoke in the documentary. He's like, I think he used to be the
CEO?
chief. Yeah, not CEO,
Oh,
the chief like investment officer,
the
chief financial
CFO?
something like that,
Yeah.
right? CFO. And but he had a software engineering background, and he's an Indian guy. It's a Champrith or something like that.
Yeah.
He speaks at a lot of conferences, and he was saying in that documentary how he doesn't allow his kids to be on their iPads or their phones at all. Like he's like, nope, no social media whatsoever. Because he actually, when the engineers figured it out, and I think they brought it to him, he brought it to the board, and they were like, well,
Get out of here.
whatever.
whatever, it's gonna make us more money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the social media is a big part of it. Television, of course. Obviously, the earlier age, the more likely it is to affect us, right? To get that negative. Your family, your social circle. What's the saying? The 5 people you spend the most time with, you end up being most like.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much.
I like the old saying: if you wanna fly with the eagles, you don't hang with the turkeys, right?
Gobble gobble.
So, I mean, and it's true. Like the older you get, the more perspective you get, you see it. But the earlier on in life you can catch that, the further ahead you're gonna get. I mean, you're gonna blaze. Like you're gonna be like one of these 23-year-olds that's built a business, and they're all already a multi-million.
I'm not going to be a 23-year-old anymore.
I wish. I know, me
no
too,
joke.
right?
Nah, I was pretty stupid at 23.
I think most of us were. I mean, I came from a kind of a broken background. I mean, one parent home. I'm a Gen Xer. And in Gen X, we have a
That
term
means
called
old.
latch.
No, I'm,
Yeah, it means old,
I'm pretty
right?
close to being one, actually. I'm an elder millennial. That's what they call me. I was like, what the hell is that? I'm going to slap you people.
You're old now,
I was
dude.
born in the late 1900s. Like, how dare you even say it? But not late, actually, but yeah.
Early 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I
right?
know, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the you know, the people that you're around the most, your family, you modeled them. Your friends, you modeled them, right?
Yeah.
And they're all being bombarded by things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, our system, our capitalistic system, not that capitalism's bad, but just certain aspects of it, they want you to be insecure. I don't think they want us to be like introspective and self-reflecting.
No.
They want constant bombardment to keep you distracted,
Yeah.
so that
Yes.
you can't figure things out, right?
Oh,
For
yeah.
yourself.
Well, you become a byproduct of the system.
Yep.
You know, and I mean that's just as humans in general, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we literally created an environment to survive in, and and the environment is part of the reason that we're killing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is it? It's too much food. Basically, you know, there's more than enough food.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but from a consumption standpoint, psychologically, it's like you're barren.
Yes.
You know, it's just you got people talking about, I don't know, red carpet shit and stuff like that. And they're,
The Met Gala.
yeah, or
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
the hell that is.
The
You know,
AOC.
and I get it. I mean, I get it if you want to be entertained, but I feel like when you have so much energy invested in those things, you're really doing yourself a potential disservice because you're not even part of that reality.
Right.
Like you're not, you know, like
Living vicariously through those people.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
you guys know you're self-employed. How much real like time do you have to go spend doing that kind of stuff? It's unproductive.
Oh, I hate it. Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny. Like, I don't have cable on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean,
Neither
we
do I.
have Netflix and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I try to watch something and fall asleep. Basically, like it makes me fall asleep. You know.
Yeah.
I look at I mean, from what I do now, but before that, I always looked at, you know, media content in a different way, more of the how is this affecting the masses. So like now, especially now that I'm the producer of this podcast, I'm looking at it a little different. I'm taking in the content to give it to this guys and make something else with it too.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
constructive.
Exactly,
You're
yes.
building something out of it.
And most people aren't thinking of the quality of the content they're taking in. You know,
No.
they're just
They're just taking it in.
It's just junk food. You know, they're just taking it
God.
in, filling themselves, and that's all they know now.
Have you been on Twitter? You know.
Oh, what?
I won't.
Twitter,
I won't look at
TikTok.
it.
I've been
I
kicked
love
out.
TikTok.
It's terrible, man. It's addictive.
I know.
Like, what am I gonna do now?
I set timers to notify me if I
nice.
spent more than 10 minutes on each thing,
Yeah.
and then I won't use it at all. So I have to get all my business stuff done on social media within that small time frame, so I don't waste time on it at all.
Yeah.
And that right there made a tremendous difference in productivity and just mental clarity and just feeling better.
Nice.
You know, you're not consuming BS,
Right.
But yeah, I mean that I mean, would you say even, well, because your wife Teresa, you know, when she's working on well, actually maybe tell people a little bit about what she does more or less. Yeah.
Well, she basically, like, her foundation is in Reiki therapy. Her aunt is a Reiki master, and she went and got her attunements, her first and second attunements from her aunt. And so what she does is sometimes they call it touchless therapy because you don't necessarily have to touch the person to get the work done, but a lot of times she will, and it basically you're channeling energy that's all around us, but somehow these people, the best way I can put it is she's like a conduit. She's like a conduit and capacitor. She draws it in and she discharges it. And in the human body, in Ayurvedic, in Indian, East Indian philosophy, there are energy points called chakras, right?
Yeah.
And they correspond to certain points of our life. Like you've got the root chakra, which is the first 5 years of your life, and then the sacral chakra and the solar plexus and heart and throat and third eye and crown chakra, right? And so, but then on top of that, she went through oracle school, and she does these oracle card readings, which are really fascinating because every time she pulls cards for her clients and they're random, they're dead on as to what they're dealing with and what they need to hear at that moment. It's a trip. And then she does she mixes in some clinical hypnotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, different modalities. And she's not trying to do what a licensed therapist is doing, but believe it or not, she has a following of licensed LMFTs that will send her their clients. when they're like either like these extremely difficult cases or they're just, you know, hitting roadblocks and they can't break through them. And what she'll do is she'll help them. And then if it's appropriate, she just refers them back. Like she's not trying to do their job or replace them. But sometimes that when they come there and they work with her, they're done. Like they get what they need and they heal up. And I mean,
sometimes it's the right fit, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's something that I can't do. I don't have the gift for it. I thought it was pure nonsense and hokum when she first did it. Honestly, like I was like, whatever. And then I had her do it on me, and it helped me with some more physical issues I was having at the time. And but really, what convinced me is watching her work with some patients that I was having great difficulty with, like healing their pain and just their constant stress and their I call it the helicopter brainness. And she would just get in and clear these things out, and then they would no longer need to be adjusted anymore. They would hold their alignments. I mean, they wouldn't have the balls of tension. I mean, they were happy. Yeah. It's just. I'm sorry, you can't BS your way through that.
No.
It's a lot harder than people think it is, you know? And so the more I saw her do this with her clients, the more I was convinced, you got a real gift here, and we've got to get that out to the world, because honestly, people need that more than what I do. I mean...
Yeah, it sounds like it really helps reveal a lot of these things to people's self-awareness and, you know, just finding, you know, what is that? Kind of searching for that thing that they've been looking for, right?
A lot of it is self-purpose, honestly.
Yeah, self-purpose. And I mean, that's the funny thing. Acceptance, yeah, right?
Self-love.
Like, well, and it's funny, like even when I talk to my clients, it's like you have to accept that literally all the self-sabotage is you, right? And you can't move forward until you've actually addressed that. Like literally, you can blame everything you want to blame, but it still starts there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and that honestly, that could be the one factor that keeps all the other stuff, all your other tools in your chest, from being able to work and get the job done. Is that self-sabotage?
Do you feel like in our society that there's a lack of self accountability?
Yeah. Well, look at what's going on now, even more than ever, like with this whole pandemic crisis. You know, now everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else. Like, you gave this to me, right? Like, wait a minute. The fact that you eat, you know, Big Macs and drink, you know, Diet Cokes, 64 ounces of Diet Coke every day, and you've got the BMI of a water buffalo, and you know, and the hormonal profile of a you know, I don't know. I mean, I remember a study in 2017. It referenced less than 3% of our whole population is metabolically healthy. Yes, I believe that.
It's freaking insane.
Yeah.
You know,
there's no accountability, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to penalize people in the healthcare system for not getting vaccinated, And I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I got the vaccine. I got the Moderna one, right? I didn't have any major, you know, reactions to it, and I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had any infections with COVID since. Lord knows I've been around it, but I don't believe that, you know, you have to force people to do it. Like, there are risks to it. Believe me, I've seen it. So I don't, you know, when my patients ask me, I say, look, you know, do your research, but understand there's these risk factors. I suggest you do metabolic testing.
It's one of those things, like having the choice to make your own risk assessment.
And it's not even really a pandemic, honestly. When you look at the definition of a pandemic, we're not in a true pandemic. But that's a whole other story.
I mean, we'll get into that,
yeah. So
we're getting into the deep today.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's like all these rabbit holes, right?
It's okay.
Off into the weeds.
I like it. That's how we talk anyways.
We like it.
Yeah.
Lots of other topics, right, we can talk about. So, the accountability thing, right? My point to that conversation was going to be that people, it's not like the doctor's coming in and going, okay, guess what? We're going to put a tracker on how much, like, high fructose corn syrup you can take, right? And that's going to affect your premiums, whether you get insured. It's going to affect whether we give you care for diabetes, right, or high blood pressure or whatever, right? They don't do any of that.
China, right? They have a score system, and if you're not a healthy person, you get docked down some points.
Dock points down, right? Yeah.
We definitely shouldn't have something like that.
No, I was just going to say that.
Well, you know, like, like I was telling Matt before, like I function more better with a guidance. Somebody telling me exactly do this, and I mean, we could make the case in America we have too much freedom.
Yeah.
Too much freedom, and way too much. Most people can't handle all that freedom.
Too many choices.
Yeah, too many choices.
Right.
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
inundated with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kind of.
I don't remember. I don't remember the studies or the quote where they were talking about like if you give humans more than say like 3 or 4 choices, they just completely they can't make a decision.
Yeah.
I run into that.
I mean,
Netflix.
I see it with my father-in-law scrolling through Netflix.
Yeah.
Hundreds of shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can't pick one.
I do.
But like if we look at the basis of how we learn these things or how to learn to interact with these things, that's the breakdown, because a lot of us are still high functioning in the same exact environment, right?
Yes.
So it's either you're gaining awareness and constantly improving, or you are just becoming a byproduct of it. Which is unfortunate, but I mean, there's always going to be huge downsides when you have huge upsides.
Yes.
I mean, that's just kind of how things always existed.
That's how the crypto market goes.
Yeah.
The law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We came out with a good idea, but then all of a sudden it, ends up with these byproducts that we didn't intend for, and I don't think there's anything to blame except ourselves.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that we're all part of it, but we need to come to a collective solution versus hey, you're the reason and why I'm miserable. Like, really?
Well, that's I feel like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of pointing, finger pointing, and it's just like I mentioned earlier, it's like just the sheer lack of responsibility. It's just people don't want to take responsibility for their own actions.
Well, our own politicians don't take responsibility for their own actions.
No,
so it's a top-down effect, honestly, in my opinion.
And that's
well, also celebrities. Celebrities commit crimes all the time. They're always getting into trouble, and then they get special treatment.
Scot free, except Jeffrey Epstein. He got special treatment.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
No, I don't care. You go for it.
I don't want YouTube to flag your video.
Oh, it probably already did.
Just delete it out.
It probably already did.
Your audience on your podcast, your video podcast, they'll still be.
Yeah. We're just gonna be like, blah, blah, blah. Oh man, that's hilarious.
Just overdub me. Like they did with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hercules in New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, come back here.
Dude, that's... Forgot about that. You're aging yourself. No.
Darn it.
Oh, man.
It's wisdom.
Well, overall, it's... I'm just glad that we're all in a type of industry that allows us to empower people.
Yeah.
In their own unique way.
You guys, I mean, what's always fascinating me about you guys is that you're in this is a discretionary income business, and it's cash only. See, the problem in my industry is insurance is involved. In insurance, insurance fucks everything up.
Yep.
They don't want to get people better. They put a bandage everything, and it's all about cost containment, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I have the issues in functional medicine that I do, because as people come in, they're like, oh, you accept my insurance? Yeah, but not for this, right?
Yeah.
You guys, you don't have to deal with that. They come in, they understand you're paying cash or you're not. I'm good.
The only way.
Yeah, the only way. And it's
Ryan accepts
thing.
Doge, though. So.
Hey, that's even better.
Yeah.
That's even better than cash, right?
Right now, I want some XRP and some ADA.
Okay, pick up some Solana.
Yeah. I wish I got it.
I know.
Man.
Yeah. Valus. I'm looking at Valus right now. That's an interesting one.
We can talk crypto if
Not
you want.
financial advice.
He's all
Yeah.
Crypto, it's interesting. I think it's...
I watch your crypto videos.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you?
Yeah. The ones on Facebook.
Dr. Bob has been involved with crypto since, what?
2014 is kind of when I started.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I
Wow.
should have listened to you? Fuck.
Yeah.
It's not too late.
It's never too late. We're
It's
doing
not.
good now.
It's actually, I mean, it's too late to become a Bitcoin millionaire, but I think we have good growth.
Going to become a
potential.
Shiba millionaire. No. No,
That's gone, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made that big boom, and I missed that one too. All the meme
Oh,
coins.
no, just went to Coinbase.
It just went 100 times today.
Yeah, it went up 100 times today.
Did it really?
In like
I mean,
an hour.
back down to
and then it spiked back down.
5% up.
Okay. You know, I mean, maybe.
Take your
Yeah, the
spikes.
meme coins definitely are
They're tricky. They're very volatile.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you want to look at good, solid projects. Obviously, Ethereum is the first DeFi platform.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like Microsoft.
Yeah.
So
I think
explain-
a lot of people, though, like you tell them to look at the projects, and in the end, majority are looking at what's going to make them the quick buck.
Yeah.
But I mean, strategically having a strong foundation of a project behind it validates it to hold its growth. I should
Yeah,
say. Growth potential.
but I mean,
Yeah.
like the importance of investing right now outside of the dollar, considering what's how much trillions have been printed, and then when they start tapering.